If you're out there fully maximizing all of your hot girl, hot boy, hot however you choose to identify summer, it's likely that you've taken a sip or seven of rosé since Memorial Day. But now it's time to introduce you to the rosé that you should be drinking. On this episode, I'm talking to a man who launched his own rosé brand earlier this year, and we discuss all of the trials and tribulations that come with being a black owner in the wine industry and working to make that industry more inclusive. All right, what's up, good people? It's been a minute, but I'm back up in this piece. I've been busy, and I have a really dope guest with me today. And before we get into today's topic, I ask everyone who comes on the show what's their favorite thing at the moment. So what's your favorite thing right now? What rabbit hole have you fallen into? What hobby have you picked up? What's your jam right now? What's your favorite thing?
I'm really digging the Afro beats movement. A big Black Coffee fan. So I'm also watching that transition over more into more pop culture music now. So it's interesting because a couple of years ago I was in Ibiza and was hearing this tribal house everywhere was taking over. So it's really good to see it come stateside and then for our people to especially to appreciate it and jump on board.
Yes. Have you been to a Black Coffee concert?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay. One of my favorite concert experiences was seeing Black Coffee in Durban, which is his hometown.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was for the first Essence Festival that they had in South Africa.
Yep.
That show was amazing.
Yeah.
I've been a fan of Black Coffee for a minute, but to be like in his spot.
And the energy of the people, the crowd, everyone. Yeah, man.
Yeah, that was a crazy show.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of Black Coffee
Absolutely.
as well. And with Beyonce dropping the Lion King soundtrack, I was like, oh, now everybody's going to be, like when you feel like something's been yours for a minute.
Exactly.
All right, now I got to share it.
No, it's funny because I saw Davido at Live, and he's been back twice in 3 weeks. And to go inside of that nightclub, which is not traditionally us except on Sundays, to see on a Friday night all of these white kids, Hispanic kids, all of like rocking out to I'm like, yo, this is crazy to see this movement happening right now.
Yeah, and I'm ready for every day party, every club to play more than the same three Afrobeat songs. It's always Pana and Joanna.
Exactly.
It never fails. Like that's everybody's Afrobeat set.
That's your set. That's all they got.
That's all they got. So I'm waiting for people to expand on Afrobeats. I'm surprised it took this long.
Yeah, I am too, actually. I think we had to ride the waves of a couple of different music cycles because that's the way the business is. So they watched it bubble to a point now where it's viably successful for now the big labels and the nightclubs and the radio stations to get behind it. And that's really what the problem is with music nowadays, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm prepping for a trip to Ghana in a couple of weeks, and it's a group trip that we're doing through Black and Abroad.
Oh, nice.
And one of the things that we do for every trip is we create a playlist for them that kind of gives them the vibe of the city. So I'm digging back into like my archives and stuff and asking all my Ghanaian friends like, yo, what's the jam right now? So we can get that music.
You make sure you send that soundtrack and that playlist to me when you get it together.
We'll do. I'll send you my South African one that we have to them too.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I'm always looking for new stuff. So all of my South African friends, I'm always Shazamming like their IG stories.
Nice.
Because I'll be hearing stuff when they're at the club. I'm like, let me go ahead and add that to my playlist. Let's see. What's my favorite thing right now? Fall is actually my favorite thing because I'm over summer.
Yeah, you have to cool down already.
So I'm looking like I'm trying to be fly. It's so hard to be fly when it's 102 degrees outside.
Yeah. 100%.
So
you just got to do what I do. Just wear black all day. Black t-shirt, black pants.
You see, look, we both. That's my thing, all black. So, but I'm like, let me find me a fly overcoat this year. I'm trying to kill it. So I'm all about like October right now. That's on my mind. That and let's see, music wise, what is my thing right now? There's actually Prince Kaybee, who is from South Africa. He just dropped a track with some girl that's on his label. So I've been listening to that lately. I got into shout out to my boy Marcus Harvey, who always has jams on his IG stories. Marcus owns the barbershop. Not for that, he's Nas's barber.
Oh, dope.
And he put me on to this DJ Ian Wallace, who does a lot of mixes.
I got to check that out.
So he's on Bandcamp.
Okay. Yeah.
But there's a remix he did to the Internet's Hold On that samples. He took a Curtis Mayfield sample.
Wow.
So that's been my joint right now, too.
Yeah. I got to check that out for sure.
Yeah. Nothing new on Netflix.
Well, I don't know, the Black Godfather. That was
well, I watched that because I had that saved
4 times already now.
Yeah, because like they be showing the trailers.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll be trying to save stuff to it, so I watched it the day it came out.
Yeah,
that definitely changed my approach to how I want to do business.
Absolutely,
and how I would hope that people would want to do
absolutely.
business.
I mean, that was a remarkable story. So inspirational to see, especially as people of color.
Yeah,
to see back then a Black guy navigating that space like that with authenticity.
Yeah.
Like he was not trying to, I'm not the white guy. I'm not selling out. I'm Clarence Thomas. Not Clarence. Oh God. Clarence LeBon. I'm going to give it to you straight, but real. And it's going to always be truth and honest. And I think that's what's lacking a little bit nowadays in business.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was authentically himself throughout the whole thing. And I want just a separate show with him and Quincy just talking.
That would be the
best. I know they have crazy stories.
Ice Cube and Petrus is enough. He's like, yeah, I like it. I put ice cubes in my wine.
Yeah.
Quincy's like,
yeah. So if you haven't seen that, shame on you, but definitely check out The Black Godfather on Netflix. That was an amazing documentary.
Absolutely.
Netflix has really been killing it documentary-wise.
Their programming right now is top-notch for sure. Like they're definitely giving what traditionally used to be HBO's lane a run for his money. So it's interesting to watch and see.
Yeah. All right, so random. Do you remember on HBO way back in the day when they had Bangin' and Lil Rock? Do you remember?
Yes, absolutely.
I was trying to tell somebody about that documentary and how those are one of the documentaries that kind of shaped my youth.
Yep.
Was that and how MTV used to do the Sex in the 90s.
Yo, absolutely.
Documentaries. I was like, there's certain things that I remember clear as day.
Yeah.
And it's moments from those documentaries.
I mean, Bangin' and Little Rock for me, I was like, I didn't even know that stuff existed in that part of the country. And it was probably just as just not the same as Baltimore or more aggressive.
Yeah.
So I was like, whoa.
HBO did a documentary on Baltimore schools. It was shortly after they did the season on The Wire in Baltimore schools. And I was like, these kids is cutting up. Then I saw my little cousin the documentary. And I was like, oh, they not something.
Yeah, exactly.
But that hit a little too close to home with that one. But you guys are probably wondering who I've been talking to about Black Coffee and the Black Godfather. So I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself. So go ahead and tell the people who you are.
My name is Donae Burston. I am the CEO and founder of Fête du Rosé, the first rosé that aims to be inclusive in the marketplace. We launched here recently, May 24th, 2019. But prior to that, I spent 10 years at LVMH, Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, working on all their champagne brands for the last 4 or 5 years of that tenure. And just before I started this rosé wine brand, I was the sales and marketing director for Champagne Armand de Brignac, leading the Southeast, Latin America, and Caribbean. And
if you guys are wondering, what is Armand de Brignac?
Ace of Spades.
Ace of Spades. And look, I feel bad because I speak French and I jack that all up. But Ace of Spades. So if you drink Ace of Spades at any point in the last decade, Donae was the reason why.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're here. We're here to talk about what you're doing right now, which is La Fête du Rosé.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just go ahead and get into it. Why rosé?
Again, working at LVMH, every year we would take these business trips to France because that's where all the headquarters of Maisons are, as they say there. And we would always use that opportunity to venture down south and hang out in Saint-Tropez or Cannes at the Cannes Film Festival or Monaco, et cetera. And when you go there, rosé is just a part of the lifestyle. It's like water. So I got this great affinity for it and this love for it because it was an emotional attachment to my amazing vacations in the south of France. But when I came back stateside, I noticed that every other rosé wine brand was typically targeting the same white woman in the Hamptons or somewhere like that wore sundresses with flowers and pink. And it was very feminine for me. It wasn't inclusive. And I said to myself, my friends, we like rosé, but no one's talking to us. So I wanted to create a brand that was actually talking to people of color and men. So this brand is not Black only. It's inclusive. And that's more like kind of what we see for the brand. It's like we're bringing people into the rosé fold. We're making men comfortable. We're saying to the beautiful Black women on Instagram, you too can drink rosé and, show off. And it doesn't have to be in the mirror image of what they're doing on the other brands.
And, when you said that rosé brands don't really target to us, I remember, I don't know if it was like maybe 2 years ago, when a brand tried to put rosé in a 40-ounce bottle. That's not how you target.
And amazingly, they got distribution in places like Whole Foods and a couple other stores like that, I remember. And I was just shocked that would even pass the litmus test of some of these companies to even put something like that in the store. But yeah, 40-ounce rosé, it was shocking to see.
Yeah. So like I said, if you're listening, that is not how you that is not how you market to other demographics outside of, like you mentioned, blonde hair, blue eye, hair blowing in the wind, kind of rosé moments. Because that's all I've seen. But then on the flip side of that, socially, if I look on Instagram and Twitter or Facebook, I see people who look like me having, rosé moments all of the time. So it just felt like a market that was untapped.
Absolutely.
And a market that's steady growing.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at it right now, the rosé market in the United States is only 1% of all table wines sold in the United States. So if you think about all the Chardonnay and the Pinot Noir and the Malbec and all that, rosé is still 1% of total U.S. table wine. So that's a huge market and opportunity. So yes, as much as I wanted to do something for me and my friends, I also look at it from a business standpoint and say, listen, there's opportunity for growth and there's opportunity to create a brand that's really a brand that resonates with all people. I mean, if you think about our friend circle, we all have friends and people that we associate with from different backgrounds. We all hang out and it's no big thing. So I wanted to capitalize on that and create something sexy. Most wine brands also don't brand themselves like a lifestyle brand. Mm-hmm. I'm a wine brand. We have great credentials. Yeah, my wine has all of that as well. But more importantly, we're going to be a brand that's a part of the lifestyle and the culture.
Do you think that idea of building a lifestyle around the brand comes from your prior experience? Because a lot of the brands that you work with are very lifestyle centric.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason why everybody was drinking Ace of Spades is because Jay put a lifestyle around, the idea of Ace of Spades. When I think of somebody drinking rosé, we know all of the things that come with making up that scene.
Yep.
I'm even thinking of like, if I'm at dinner and somebody orders rosé, like, oh, that's how you feel?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. So it creates a very different vibe. So why not tap into that and make it a whole moment?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's why we see these rosé based events happening, because there is a theme around that drink. So yeah, it's easy to capitalize on that. That was what we did with Black and Abroad. We knew that there was a community around Black travel. So how do we tap into that and then make our own sub-community?
Yeah, and quite frankly, travel was one of the things that really inspired me postgraduate anyway. So that's all about the rosé lifestyle. So when I talk about it in media to general market people, I say to them, like, listen, Black people are traveling at a rate by which we haven't seen in decades ever before. And they're going to places not typically, everyone has done Miami. Miami is cool, don't get me wrong, but now Black folks are traveling overseas to Africa, to Europe, to all these exotic, quote unquote, places that traditionally we haven't gone. So you have to speak to that change in the marketplace, because that all is what fuels, all of us. Look at social media. We're probably the most engaged demographic on social media.
We are.
We are. And what percentage of that is the travel pics that we all see from each other, which is amazing. So it's all a part of that exact lifestyle and to show that we're growing up. Yeah, we may have started off drinking Moscato and all the cheap stuff, but as everyone grows and elevates, that palate changes. And we're here to serve that.
Right. I remember when I was 19 and drinking, gin was the last thing on my mind. But now I'm like, I'll go to a gin tasting.
For sure.
Or I like this kind of gin. I like it done this way. Same thing with like bourbon and scotch.
Yep.
That wasn't what I went for at 21. But now that's all I want to drink.
Absolutely.
So yeah, your palates change, your mindset change, your approaches to
and your experiences. Because for me, again, I had rosé for the first time in Saint-Tropez on my 30th birthday. That is burned in my brain forever because it's associated with that experience. So if we can create that same experience stateside with great wines and champagnes, they'll forever live in that back of your brain. See, this is my brand because the first time I had it, I went to XYZ, blah blah blah.
So, what was the moment when you knew that what you were doing right now was what you were supposed to be doing? When was the moment when you were like, okay, you know what? La Fête du Rosé is a real thing. Is it?
Yeah. So we did a white label test run in Miami last year. the end of last year, just to kind of say, is this a viable option? Are we crazy? Is this something that could really, really, really stick? And the response that we received from the 1 or 2 places that put us on the list was insane. And then as I began to mail bottles out to certain people, and the feedback was like, yo, this rosé is crazy. This rosé is good. I love it. I just said to myself, this is a viable option. Like this is real now. And that's when I decided it was a time to make an exit from Armand de Brignac and put the plan in motion and really start to deal more with the winery on redefining the packaging and what we wanted to be and building that brand story.
Yeah. And I think that's a moment that a lot of Black entrepreneurs are afraid of, is that moment when they realize that it is real.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, especially if you haven't been in a space of business on your own before, you don't know how to handle that. It was a conversation I had to have with myself early on in Black and Abroad, where it was like, no, your business is going to be here next year. So spend like it's going to be here next year or 5 years from now. And that was when I saw like the growth change.
100%. When you commit in your mind that, okay, it's time, the universe starts to, and I'm not a super stonesy spiritual person like that, but it's true. Like when you say, all right, this is the direction I'm going in, things start to happen and evolve. And we also have to make that decision to say, if you have a full-time day job, at some point you got to cut that tie, because it's hurting you more than it's really helping you, because the 9 hours a day that you have to commit to that full-time job is 9 hours you could really be committing to building your brand or your own business. And that was a decision I had to make. And yes, it was hard, and I have a kid and I have a family and all of that, but I knew that this thing was going to win. I knew this Lafette Rosé thing was going to be a success.
Yeah. Kudos to you for that. Because a lot of us are afraid to accept our greatness.
Yeah.
And have this fear that it all ends if it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
I'm like, if Black and Abroad were to die tomorrow, I can do other stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
and now I'm built to make other stuff happen quicker.
Absolutely. Because
of that. But yeah, we get so caught up in the failure that we won't even attempt.
And we can't talk. A lot of us can't talk to our parents and family because they have never done anything like that. So they're looking at you like, you're about to leave what job to do what? Like, what are you talking about?
Right. You don't get no pension, at your own business. I got that. My family was like, well, look, as long as you're not asking me for money,
100%.
As long as I ain't got to pay your bills, keep doing whatever it is you do. So that was their approach to it. But they're still kind of, when I show them stuff, they're like, oh, that's great. Yeah. But they really have no idea of all of it took.
My mother told all our friends I threw parties for the last 15 years. I'm like, no, I do not throw parties. Yes, we have events, but that's not what I do. She's like, oh, he throws parties and events. I'm like, no.
I'm sure my mother probably thought I was pushing weight.
Yeah, exactly.
She's like, he's just always on a plane somewhere,
Who's really paying for this?
Right. I was like, no, people actually pay me to go places. Okay, baby.
Right.
As long as I ain't got to pay your light bill.
Exactly.
They good. So we touched on this a little bit earlier about what kind of representation was seen in the rosé space, really just in the wine and spirits space.
Yeah.
And there's not too much representation from Black owners. So what kinds of things have you dealt with being a Black man in this space when you're trying to handle business?
It's interesting because I had the privilege, I should say, of working on one of the most esteemed brands in Dom Perignon, and also working on an esteemed brand in Champagne Armand de Brignac, aka Ace of Spades. With me having the Southeast territory for both, I can see the response in just dealing with people. So when I would walk in as a representative of Dom Perignon, they were very intrigued. Oh my God, how did you work for them? Blah, blah, blah. They were like, oh, he's great. When I walked in saying I worked for another Black man that owned the Champagne brand, it was, oh, that's the Black brand. We don't want it. Same person, same message. Just their perception. So that perception initially even coming to the table was the biggest hindrance, because they just felt like, oh, if I serve Ace of Spades, it's going to bring that audience, or our crowd would never drink that. And my biggest thing was to show them, oh, but they will, because in the rest of the world, that's who's drinking it.
Or in the rest of the world, it's Black and brown people.
And Black and brown, so it's just really, that was the most interesting thing I saw. And then also working for LVMH. Listen, that was the best training ground I ever had in my life in terms of luxury. But there was a ceiling for people of color within that organization, because you're still dealing with French people who only know us through what they see on television, through music, etc. Or for my company, they only saw us through Hennessy and Moet Nectar Rosé. So their lens of who we were as a diaspora and everything we could do was not there. So, it was only so far that any of us were going to go. We were always stuck on the brands that had some sort of African-American audience. And those of us that were lucky enough to get on other brands were always held to a regional level. So we were never going to get the national jobs or the jobs in France at the Maison. So it's just, implicit bias.
Right. And it's crazy when you lay out, your resume that you worked for Dom, that you worked for Ace of Spades, and people are still like,
yeah.
But,
yeah.
That's crazy to think. And then, like you said, you're walking into the same rooms now as an owner that you were as an employee, and people who know you and know what you're capable of and still second guessing.
Yeah.
So it's like, what can you do?
It's interesting because a lot of the problems with all of this is always the gatekeeper. It's never the consumer. It's never the end user. It's always the gatekeeper and their perceptions. So until we can change that and have more younger or diverse somms or managers of bars or buyers at these retail stores, it's going to be a circle, of just going in the same, running after each other, trying to change it. So it's, that's one of the bigger things we have to focus on. Not only do we need to create these brands, we also need to create the vehicles to help these brands move and or support to the point where the stores can't say no.
Right. So this brings me to my next question, and I feel like we both can share war stories on this. So the Black-owned business label, I can't avoid it because Black is in the name of my business.
Neither can I. Look at me.
But, we know companies that are like, I don't want to say that I'm Black owned. I would rather people matter of factly kind of find out that, this company is great and they just happen to be owned by Black people instead of I'm a Black owned company.
Yeah.
What's your take on that, on being identified as a Black owned business? Because when I was doing my research and prep for this interview, a lot of the articles that came up used that predominantly in your push as to why people should be paying attention to you. And it wasn't just Black outlets that did it either. But what's your take on it? Have you ever felt like that's hindered you in any way?
It hasn't hindered me. However, again, it creates that lens through which some people are already looking at the product. And I'm not ashamed of it by any means. I'm a Black-owned business, but the brand is not only for Black people. And that's been the biggest challenge I have, is that they think, because it's Black-owned, it's only for Black people. And I'm just like, I never said that. I said this is an inclusive brand that's for all people. We all have friends, gay, straight, Black, white, Asian. It's for all of us. It's just bringing everyone into the fold, whereas the other brand only had that person in mind. So I embrace it. However, I don't want it to be seen as it's only for Black people. That's the only concern I have, is that that's the message that comes across a lot of times, is that, it's only for Black people. And I'm like, well, who ever said that? I never said that.
Right.
So that's what you're saying. But I'm very proud of it. I think, the reason why I started it again was because I knew that there was a space and a void on both sides, Black ownership in rosé and Black consumption of rosé, or marketing towards Black consumers for the consumption of rosé. So, but again, I see the articles you see as well, and it makes me, not uncomfortable, just makes me think like, is that the only reason they're interested? But if it is, so what? I'll take it to the bank.
Right. The checks cash, all the same. So like I said, for me, it's something I can't hide from. And I never intended to hide from it. But there were those moments when people would ask me, what do you do?
Yeah.
Or what's your business? I remember distinctly, I was flying into London. I was going through customs. And the agent asked why I was there. And I was like, I'm handling some things related to business. He was like, what's the name of your business? And I told him it's Black and Abroad. He was like, what's that? I said, it's a travel company that's centered around travel for Black millennials. And he was like, well, why? I was like, why not? There's money in that community, and there's interest from that community to be represented. So why not?
Absolutely.
But it was having those conversations where I didn't blush or wince at someone asking why Black people,
right? Or
why specific to that group. Why not?
Yeah.
The information that we put out to the world is not only for Black people.
100%. But that's what most people can't understand, especially mainstream media or these different people we interact with, is that they don't understand that we mostly like all the same shit. And it's just like, people target groups all of the time for things. I don't get upset when
there's a product that's focused on only women. Because if it works on me, I'm gonna use it.
Exactly.
So I read Cosmo articles.
Yep.
I go to certain sites to read information, but I don't feel like, oh, why is that only for women?
Right. Exactly.
But I think that comes with being in a position as a Black person where you are always open and accepting of other people's identities and roles in the world, and you being used to adjusting and making yourself an available space in other people's spaces. So it's easy for us to acclimate in those environments, and we understand why people want to be represented.
Exactly.
So it was a thing where I was like, why not?
Well, I've had to use the Black card in this business with this new venture. I had a distributor tell me, did the whole presentation, sent her the deck. We talked. Her vice president was like, talk to this guy, blah, blah, blah. She read the deck. We met on the phone. She called me afterwards and like, yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to work together. I said, well, why not? This is in Washington, D.C. I don't care. I'll sit. I said, well, why not? She said, I just don't think your consumer would pay for this product. So I immediately said, well, would you ever tell a Jewish person that a kosher product would not work in their community? And she's like, no, but I'm just saying from what I understand, I just know this marketplace. I said, but would you ever tell a Jewish person that a kosher product would not work in their community? So what I was trying to get her to understand is that if you're not a part of the culture and you're not actively in it every day, you can't necessarily say what the African-American multicultural millennial consumer is willing to pay for.
Right.
So she was like, well, let me think about it. The next day, a Vine Pair article came out and it said, why is the wine industry ignoring the $1.2 trillion African-American consumer? And it talked about the gatekeepers. I just sent it to her. Didn't say a word, nothing. Forward. The phone rings. Can you come to DC and we meet next Tuesday? Absolutely. Because at that point, it's just like, you sometimes you just don't have the right to tell me what's going to work in my community.
Right.
Like, as an outsider. Not being racist, but you don't live the culture like I do every day. You're not sitting with us when we're drinking $50 scotches and we're buying this and we're traveling to these exotic places and staying in the Four Seasons like it's nothing. So a $24 bottle of wine is not something that's a huge stretch for the consumer.
Right. Right. So this is it's a point that we make when we're presenting to businesses, groups of people, entrepreneurs. There's research that's been done around the Black consumer that shows that in relation to travel, and I'm sure this applies to all other businesses, but if we feel like we are appropriately marketed to, like in an authentic manner, we'll spend upwards of $240 more on an experience because of that.
Yep.
So to hear that, if I just say, yep, Black people do this too, you're going to give me $240 more
exactly
for the same thing? Why wouldn't you do this?
100%.
When we started, Black consumers were spending, it's like $53 billion on travel every year. Now the number's 64.
Wow.
You don't see $64 billion represented in travel media. You just don't.
No.
If I saw that, I'd be blackety black.
Yeah,
black,
exactly.
It's like, why not?
Yeah.
So to hear, like you said, $1.2 trillion. And people are like,
I don't know.
This is very risky. No, it's not at all.
Especially with a seasoned professional behind it. Like, okay, plenty of people start brands and may not know the alcohol industry and the ins and outs and how it works. But myself and my team, we're veterans. Like we ran some of the biggest brands in the world. When you saw the Miami Heat Championship with the Moet Ice, that was us. That was me. When you saw, Dom Perignon doing stuff with Hublot, that was me. Like, so to say that, because you don't think so, it won't work. It was just like the biggest smack in the face. I was like, wow.
Yeah. Why do you think it's such an afterthought for us? Why is it a brand new idea when we walk into the door and present it?
Because there's so many barriers to entry and not a lot of people have done it. So it's more of that than anything else. It's just not a lot of people have done it. I mean, luckily now you're getting the McBride sisters and you got Andre Mack and all these other people venturing into the wine business. But for so long, the alcohol industry was controlled by these big houses, and that's all there was to it. 20, 30 years ago, I couldn't have gone to a French winery and said, let's work together. They'd have been like, bye.
And that's so crazy because it's like, I'm thinking every year when marketing teams come together and like, hey, what are we going to push this year?
Yeah.
And it's the same shit from last year. Yep. Well, we'll add another blonde girl
exactly
this time. Exactly. And it's like, an attempt. I'm not even saying put your whole marketing budget in there.
Yeah.
10% in here. And then ask the people who would actually be impacted by your campaign.
What do you think?
What you think? That does wonders for stuff.
Yeah.
We've been in rooms, my co-founder and I, we were like, yeah, you guys don't need to do that. Please don't do that.
Yeah.
Remove us from all conversations if you guys decide to do that. And it's just like, who thought this was okay? And yeah, it trips me out.
Let me ask you a question, because I'm very good friends as well with the guys from Beautiful Destinations. So I see the level of business they get from all these different tourism boards. Mm-hmm. Has your business been limited to the places of quote unquote color? Because I see them get from the gamuts of Philippines to Seoul to Ireland to, all these places. And I just wonder if you guys having a very and they're not even a travel agency per se. They were just a guy reposting everyone's travel pictures initially, and now they're doing video concepts. But are you getting that same level of attention and recognition?
So it's changed, and it's changed very rapidly recently, and I'll tell you why. But to go back to the beginning, when we first started out, shout out to South Africa. South Africa was very interested in what we were doing as a brand and was interested in the ideas that we had to further travel to that destination. So South Africa has always been ride or dies for Black and Abroad, and we love them for that. Other countries in Africa, when we first started, we're kind of like, we don't know if you're our demographic.
What?
What? You're telling me that Black travelers are not your demographic to your African country? Yeah. So we had some of those conversations. Other countries were very interested in having us come. Thailand was another place where we were like, hey, we're coming in. Like, yeah, of course, we know about you guys. Come on. And, they were very interested in working with us. But now, so earlier this year, we launched a campaign, the Go Back to Africa campaign.
Okay.
Which is
that's fitting.
Yeah. And that's why I say it happened very rapidly. So we launched it in April. And the premise of it was to flip that negative phrase on its head and use it as a call to action for Black travelers to go back to countries in the continent. And the way we set up, we have a website that's AI based that it scrubs Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for images of Black travelers that have been tagged with locations in Africa. And if they use the hashtag based on our direction with Go Back to Africa, it'll parse that image and put it on the website within the country. So if you go back to, I feel like I'm plugging myself.
Yeah.
if you go to gobacktoafrica.com, the website, there's a section for every country in Africa.
That's awesome.
And images that have been crowdsourced from those social media outlets for each one.
That's dope.
So, the intent was to show the positive imagery and all the things that the Black travelers have been doing and can do in the continent. So we launched that in April. It was a soft launch. Then our partner that we worked with was an ad agency out of Toronto. They were like, all right, we're starting to submit it to ad awards, and we're going to submit to Cannes.
Nice.
You guys want to roll? And it was like, oh, Cannes be expensive.
Yeah. But you can't beat that Cannes line experience.
Right. And we were the long shot. We're a little, startup from Atlanta, and we're going against like Volvo and Burger King. So the people who we were up against was Burger King for the campaign they did last year where if you were near McDonald's,
okay, yeah, I remember
and your location popped up, you could get a Whopper for free.
Yep.
We were up against them. We were up against Nike for the Colin Kaepernick campaign that they did. And that's just, the ones I can rattle off my head.
Yep.
These are ad agencies from all over the world. We were the long shots. So we were like, we'll go to the joints. We'll go to like the Clios in New York and the stuff in Toronto. But we're not rolling out the Cannes. And then the Cannes Lion Festival started, and our phone just started blowing up. And they're like, are y'all sitting down?
Yeah.
And I wish I had some La Fête du Rosé that day, because they were like, no, you guys won a Grand Prix, which is the top honor there. And we're like, what the fuck?
That's dope.
So, and it was for our use of data in a creative manner. But to see like our name, with that, we were just like, what does this even mean for us? And for the Black travel industry.
Yep.
Because this is a space that nobody has really dug into yet.
Yep.
Like, we are an internationally known campaign.
That's awesome.
And when they were talking about the campaign, they said that the reason why we stuck out is because we appreciated and tended to the culture. So they liked how we put our focus in.
Yeah.
So that's what telling people, I was like, look, this is all the indication you need to be your Black business
exactly.
and do whatever it is you want to do and have, true intentions toward that, because it'll pay off. But that kind of changed the guard. So that happened about 2 months ago.
Okay.
Then last week, with somebody's president being a thumb thug, I was calling it thumbfoolery last week, but he came out and told the squad, the four, to go back to where they came from. And then we just started getting hit up again about it, because CNN reached out to us and asked us about it. BBC wanted to do something else, but they were afraid to talk about it.
Really?
Yeah. So we've been having these really interesting conversations now about what our campaign means in light of everything.
That's awesome.
So yeah, now we're getting hit up regularly, like, hey, come here,
That's
here.
Good.
We want y'all to come here. We want y'all to do this. When we launched the campaign, my co-founder had gone to a travel conference in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
It's this big thing called the Indaba, which is like a meeting of the minds in Zulu. But all of these people who are like the who's who in travel come there. And we were telling people about the campaign. He was like, some people were really responsive, but some people were just like, we don't see it. Now, they the same ones that was like, roll through. When y'all coming, we got money.
Abercrombie and Fitch, Campbell and Nicholson.
So it's just very interesting now. Like you said, when you walk into certain rooms and they're like, ooh, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then something happens and all of a sudden they banging your door down to come in. So, yeah, it's interesting. When we first started, we thought that countries that had high populations of Black folks would be eager to get us
people to come back and visit.
We were invited to come. The tourism board itself had invited us to come to their country, and we had done work with them before. And they were like, we want you guys to come. It's a PR firm that's putting the trip together. PR firm told them, we don't know if they're the demographic for us. We're like, what? Huh?
That's crazy.
This is a country. I'm not gonna name their name.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be nice, but this is a country in Africa who was doing that. And the thing was, we were already gonna be over there, so they wouldn't even have to spend a lot of money for us. We were like, we'll just hop on the trip. We're already over there taking business for other things, and they were like,
wow.
Yeah, we don't know if we're gonna get the impact we want. And we were like, are you?
That's crazy.
But now I have the kind of strength behind my words to be like, oh, that's cool. Yeah. All right, you're lost.
For sure.
And it's like I can quantify your loss.
Exactly.
Because I've done work for other countries. But yeah, it's definitely interesting.
Right.
And I already know this answer because I've had some.
Okay.
But how is La Fête du Rosé different from other rosés?
So the biggest thing I'll say is the taste profile, right? Mm-hmm. Because for me as a man and as a person of color, like the rosés that were currently on the market were either super alcoholic, meaning all you got initially was just alcohol, or they were super sweet, which I don't necessarily want that, or they were super heavy. So you had these three ranges of the traditional rosés in the marketplace. And I lived in Miami for so long. It was super hot, and I would have a glass. And I'm like, all right, I need to get something else.
Right.
So this one was created to be a more light-bodied, everyday drinking rosé where you get more of the fruit, not sugar, more fruit and less alcohol. So stylistically, it's perfect for people who just want to drink good wine and lots of it. And that's the biggest difference. Because when you drink some of the more well-known brands, I tell you, you drink Lafette and drink that, all you're going to get is alcohol. You're going to be like, wow, I didn't realize it before, because we haven't had the opportunity to taste so many different rosés. We've only gone for the big names that have already been out there. But when you taste this one, you'll see you don't get a lot of alcohol, you get a lot of fruit, and it's light.
Yeah, like you said, I had an idea of what rosé tasted like before I had Lafette. And I was like, oh, okay. But it was one of those things where it was like, a friend of mine, she's a certified wine specialist, and she would put me on. She was like, no, you don't like Moscato, but you haven't had this kind of Moscato. And I was like, oh, it can taste like that. Yeah. Or, there are very heavy white wines.
Exactly.
That, not all white wines are sweet on that end of it. Or there are red wines that are very light bodied and have a sweeter profile. It just, you learn in the gamut of what they can provide. So yours, like I said, was lighter, and it it didn't have that sugary kind of kick.
Yep.
I wasn't like tapping the side of my neck or looking to dilute it down with anything. Because that was like when I would go to events and it would be like a summer party and people doing rosé. And it's like, I don't feel like having that.
Yeah. You just think sweet.
Yeah.
You're like, and then especially because if you look at the rosé champagnes that most African American consumers drink, it's Moet Nectar Rosé and Bel Air is not a champagne but a sparkling wine. Those have sugar dosages, which means sugar added back in. So you're talking like 30 to 40 grams of sugar added back into the wine. Right. I mean, that's like a Coca-Cola.
And you know, that was great for us when we didn't know what we were drinking back in 2021. But I'm an old man now.
Yeah, the hangover is not real anymore. I don't want it. So
all right, and I'm not trying to get diabetes.
Yeah, like, exactly.
I'm not trying to deal with it. I'm trying to be. I should have said this as like, what's the thing on my mind right now? I've been very concerned with like, what's 60 gonna feel like?
Yeah,
to me. Not what it's gonna look like, because I know I've been blessed enough with enough melanin in my skin that I'm gonna be all right at 60. But what is it gonna feel like?
Yeah.
So like, it's certain things that I was like, man, I hate carbs. Like, I like bread, but I can't eat it no more.
Yeah.
I can't drink. We were talking earlier before we started recording about, I was telling your boy Kelly about barbecue I went to.
Yeah.
And I had a drink there and someone mixed in like Simply Peach.
Yeah. The sweet lemon.
I was like, yo, like I started twitching and I was like, nah, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I can't. So it's like, I can't drink the way I used to.
Not at all.
So
we should be drinking cleaner. Like, this has 0 pesticides in the production process. And that just sounds like marketing terms. But when you think of hangover you get from wine a lot of times, it's the pesticides they use to fertilize the land. The only thing it does is seeps into the vines, which seeps into the grapes. So now the grapes have artificial things in them, foreign, juice, or not juice, but foreign additives in the wine, which then affects how you feel when you drink it. So it's important now to drink more biodynamic stuff as well. We can still get lit and you can still get a buzz, but it doesn't have to be dirty, so to speak.
Yeah, so you're not being extra bougie if you do like an organic wine or anything like that.
Not at
all. Well, I thought I was doing something extra. Yeah. I went to Wine Valley. I can't even think of the name of it because there's 2. Santiago.
Okay.
In Chile.
Yep.
And there's a spot there, Bodega Zuri.
Yep.
And they do all organic stuff. That wine drunk was a different wine drunk. I didn't feel bad about that. So if you're ever randomly in Chile, make sure you head out to Valparaiso in their wine valley around there. But Bodega Zuri is the spot. And they did these really dope mixes of wine that I hadn't had anywhere else. But yeah, definitely a different wine drink.
And we'll have our HV3, which is the French certification for organic, next year. So it just takes a 3-year process. They have to watch your growing cycle and how you produce for 3 years before you get it. So we'll have our certification next year and we'll be 100% organic and biodynamic. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey. If you're a rosé drinker, if you're trying to become a rosé drinker or a rosé connoisseur, what are some tips for getting the best rosé experience? Like, what should I be eating with my rosé? What kind of palate should I be incorporating?
I mean, think about the Mediterranean where the best rosés are produced, which is the south of France. Very arid, very hot, but still seaside, so you still get that breeze. So think about fish. Think about French fries. People, wine doesn't have to be fussy. That's the biggest misconception out here. Everything doesn't need to be 5-star white tablecloth pinkies in the air. Like that's not necessary. So for me, I tell people to eat what you would normally eat, but incorporate rosé, and then you'll begin to see what you like best with it. So for me, you can give me French fries and a dope truffle pizza, and I'm in the game with rosé. What I also do a lot of times is I'll put ice cubes in it, a couple ice cubes, and it's called la piscine, which means swimming pool in French. But in the south of France, because it is so hot, they'll throw a couple ice cubes in it, and it really just helps to open up the wine, and then makes you feel a little more casual. So then you can have a nice hamburger. Or I don't like all the formal wine dinners all the time. They're cool, but I mean, I don't want to. You can definitely eat a T-bone steak with rosé wine, but let's try to keep it a little more like everyday and approachable.
Right. Yeah, because I'm thinking when you hear people say ice cubes and wine, it's like,
yeah, well, I didn't say the whole glass ice.
Just a little bit to open it
like
up.
1 or 2 ice cubes, not like, don't fill it up like a soda, like you would for soda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. My homegirl, who's the wine expert, she put me on to like which champagnes go with fried chicken.
Yeah.
So like,
nice
I didn't know this was a thing, but she broke it down for me. I learned a lot from her. So if you're listening, go ahead and go back to that episode.
Yeah.
That is, right. What wine goes with leaving the country with Tanisha Townsend, who is in, I'm going to actually connect you with her. She's in Paris.
Oh, dope.
She does tours of,
is it Your Girl Meets Glass?
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah,
I'm an Instagram stalker on everybody.
I will connect you to.
Yeah.
Tanisha's the homie.
Yeah.
And she knows any and everything.
Nice.
About.
We have to get her down to the winery in San Tropez then.
Oh, she'll be down the road.
Yeah.
Before we roll out, tell the people where they can find Lafette.
So we're in most major markets. So we're in California, Florida, New York, Georgia, and Washington, D.C. The biggest outlets here in Atlanta that we're in are the Whole Foods stores. So we're in all the metropolitan Whole Foods stores, the 4 main ones in the middle of the city.
And that just happened, right?
And that just happened last week. So that was a big win for us. You can also go to Tower. But for everyone else, you can go to the website, www.lafetterose.com. It'll connect you with 2 links. One is to Reserve Bar. They can service one half of the United States, and the other store is Crush Wine in New York City, and they can service the eastern half of the United States. And they can ship anywhere, 40 states across the union. And what we're going to do is once this podcast is up, we'll put out a nice special code and you'll get free delivery if you go on the site and purchase Lafette Rosé.
Hey, I hear that. Look, we love a free delivery.
Yeah. Amazon Prime Day is not over.
Right. So, and keep in mind that just because summer is starting to creep towards its end, that does not mean that you cannot be sipping on rosé.
100%. That's the biggest misconception, is that you only drink it when it's hot outside.
Right.
But why? You drink Chardonnay when it's cold outside. You drink Zinfandels. You drink Sauvignon Blancs. Those are all white, light body wines, or can be. So why would you not drink a rosé year round?
Right.
Like, don't let the temperature dictate how you do it. Because if if we go to the skiing in Swiss Alps, you'll see people drinking rosé. So
right, and if you live in a rosé lifestyle,
it doesn't matter, baby.
Don't matter what day it is.
And one other thing before we go as well that I didn't get to mention is that because travel is so important to myself and to you, that for every bottle purchase, some of the proceeds will be donated back to different charities and organizations that take underprivileged and underserved youth overseas for travel experiences. And that could be anywhere, but I just know what travel did for me, and I'm sure you can attest to what travel did for you. So it's important for us to give back and create the next generation of urban minority Black travelers. So
yes, which is what I'm all about.
Yeah.
It's something we do. We do it, I guess, kind of quietly at Black and Abroad. We kind of pick a really dope student in high school or college who's doing something internationally, and help fund whatever that is.
Oh, nice. So you may be one of our programs now.
Yeah.
we just signed a partnership.
Hey, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Before we roll out, of course, I'm glad to have your guys' ears. It won't be this long again. I've been busy. I've been home and enjoying Atlanta and been busy, but of course, I appreciate you guys for lending me your ears. If you like what you heard today, and if you like what you've heard before, do me a favor, because these favors always help. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you have, tell a friend about how dope this show is, because it is dope. And if you've done that, go on to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Stars are nice, but words are even better. Those always help me out and give people a reason to discover the podcast. Of course, you can follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at UnGentrifiedPod, and go to the website where you can listen to this episode and any other episode at UnGentrifiedPodcast.com. You can follow me, your host, on Instagram and Twitter as well at Kent W. Johnson, and find out more about me if you chose to do that. I'm really boring, I promise, at KentWJohnson.com. Donae, thank you for rolling through.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate it, brother.
And whenever you want to come through,
yes, sir,
the door is open.
We're going to have bottles every time you have a podcast. Your guests can drink.
I may incorporate that. We need to do
it's like drink shanks, but talking about travel. Let's go.
Let's do that. Until next time, peace.